on top of changing the course of my life and my view of love and sex and my self-worth, like my innocence was stolen from me solely from a pornography addiction that didn't stem from me but was given to me. And it's such a heavy thing. People think it's just like any other right and wrong, but they don't yet understand the ramifications, and especially when we're not having those conversations with our children. And that is part of a child's first view of sex and their first experience with sex. I mean, it, especially with men, it warps their mind into thinking that women are just there for their pleasure and consumption, and it justifies, the objectification of them at a minimum, and then at an extreme, it normalizes the severity of the genres that they end up consuming, because one high ceases to be enough. So they end up going into extreme and violent genres, and then they begin to normalize that without knowing or with knowing. And that does contribute to the proliferation of violence against women in our country, largely, of course, men as well. If you're at least willing to have those conversations and be their first introduction to this thing, to say, hey, this might be something that is brought into your life, but here's the ramifications of it. If you have conversations you want to have on sex, like, I'm an open ear that we can have those open conversations about, even if it's uncomfortable. And so if we're able to be their first introduction of it, we will always be at least an internal monologue that they have to when they get subjected to it. If they do, ideally never, they can have that in their ear saying, hey, I know this is something that I shouldn't be looking at or engaging in. So previously, porn was normalized, but it was normalized in the sense of it was on paper, and even it was something that was done in secret. There was still a stigma around it. And now we live in a culture where it's promoted and celebrated, and you're weird if you don't do this thing. And so our younger generation is susceptible to this thing overwhelmingly, but also it's something that can change the course of their life forever. And so it's not just something that we can give them a phone and not have these hard conversations with them, because it's not a right or wrong choice that they can just choose from in the middle of the night or surrounded by their peers. It's a disease that literally will infect them for the rest of their life and warp how they see women and their partners and their sense of self-worth. And so it's something we have to get ahead of and not trust other people or technologies to raise our kids. We have to have the conversations, and ideally to get in front of it before it does mold their life, because it's so much harder to break free from this addiction once you're in it, as opposed to getting in front of it. So that's certainly what I would say to parents.